But I mastered that style. It's like the 5 deadly venoms. So all he had to do was get next to a nigga like that, and he could destroy him.
Believe in that, for real. We plan to take the same strategy we use with Death Row West, mind over matter, taking all our weaknesses and making it into our strength. That all these people talk about an East Coast, West Coast war, they like the Judas was to Jesus. They only here to cause confusion. We here to bring money and to bring change. They here to cause confusion. All these weak rappers, Nas, all these suckers, they battling off of East and West like this is a game. This ain't no game. If this was chess, we'd be yelling checkmate 3 years ago, because we've been beat these. It's not a game.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Expect me, I'm coming. Revenge is like the sweetest joy next to getting pussy. Picture paragraphs unloaded. The return of Egoveli. Now, I had to do this in my real form in Egoveli, and I had to present this video. I did my last video, and I told you I wasn't going to get too involved into it in that particular video, but now I am. And this is about Triple G, Carl Froch, Andre Ward. Let's go. Now, I told you I was going to provide you the clarification that you needed, and in this video I will do that. And I'll also support what I have to say. Now, the thing I notice in boxing is you get a lot of fans who they're a fan of a certain fighter. As a result, every option that they do or every decision that they make, they're okay with it. To me, that's not a real boxing fan, because my favorite fighters, like Roy Jones Jr., him continuing to fight, I'm like, man, I said years ago, I have videos where I said he should hang him up. You know what I mean? I don't just agree with anybody just for the sake of agreeing. Oh, my favorite fighter, I'll agree. But you get a lot of fanboys nowadays in the game, and they don't really know what they're talking about. Triple G, I like him. He's a good fighter. He's plowing through the competition. And for that reason, since I do like him, and I am a boxing fan, I want to see him tested with a style that has the potential, at least, to give him problems. I don't want to see him fight the same level of opposition. They had Damas and Ashita, Gabe Rosado coming up, Willie Monroe Jr. And oftentimes in boxing, what you get is you'll get a lot of people who will try to overbuild and hype up a certain fighter because their favorite fighter happens to be fighting him. You know what I mean? They'll say Pacquiao versus Algieri is a sensational fight because Chris Algieri beat Ruslan Provodnikov. Like, he showed heart in that fight, but he won via split decision. He won a belt off a split decision and got stripped immediately. He didn't even have the opportunity to defend the belt against a Danny Garcia, Victor Postal, Adrian Broner even, because he got stripped. So he was the champion via split decision for all of about 5 or 6 months before getting stripped and facing Pacquiao, right? And people will say, oh, but he beat Ruslan. He beat Emmanuel Taylor. I watched True TV last week, and Emmanuel Taylor just lost to a guy who's coming up, Orozco. And he also lost and got knocked down versus Adrian Broner. So when you put it in perspective, how good is Algieri? Again, a lot of people, I'm not dissing anybody. This is just fact. A lot of people will build these guys up and hype them up because you're trying to justify the matchup. I like a lot of fighters. I like Laura, but I also made a video where I said Laura versus Delvin Rodriguez is some bullshit. I don't want to see it. I don't have any interest in that fight. You know what I mean? Because I don't have to lie. I'm very consistent. Algieri, some people, again, they'll say he's a masterclass boxer. Willie Monroe. A lot of people are like, oh, Willie, he's so slick. Just because he's Cuban or part Cuban doesn't mean he's born with a Cuban style or he's automatically slick or he's going to be given and bestowed with a different, like a crazy defense or level of slickness. You can't be born with experience. You have to go through things to gain experience. So I knew somehow, some way Willie Monroe would lose. I said he would either get stopped or he might possibly be able to drag Triple G the distance if he made sound decisions, which he clearly didn't. He was getting battered in round 6, didn't even take a knee, didn't clinch or anything. So again, he's not at that level. Me, I want to see Triple G against someone that I know is at that level. So when you're talking about Carl Froch versus Triple G, on paper it's not a bad fight, but when you break it down, when you look at it, it doesn't make as much sense. Carl Froch got stripped of his belts. I think he gave up some of the belts. He's coming off of an injury. He hasn't fought since he fought George Groves and sold out Wembley. He's also contemplated the idea of retiring, right? So I don't know where his head's at. I mean, a guy who's talking about retirement, I have yet to hear Andre Ward say, you know what, after this injury and then all this legal mumbo jumbo, legal troubles I'm going through, I want to retire. I'm ready to retire. I might not fight again. I never heard him say that. Now, let's take a look at Ward versus Triple G. To me, Ward is easily considered the best at 168. Now here lies the problem with the diehard fanboys. They're not willing to accept this. But what I ask you to do as a boxing fan is, if I'm wrong, even though I'll provide links, which will be in the description, then you tell me how I'm wrong. You're not going to get that because I know my shit, and most people can't fuck with me on that level. And what you will get, now let me break down the psychology of a casual fan. A psychology of a casual fan is this. When someone's making a good point or a sound argument and they don't have the knowledge to rebuttal that intelligently, they'll either, one, defer and bring up something that has nothing to do with it, or they'll say something else that has nothing to do with it or hurl an insult. That is that psychology. I'm asking to prove me wrong, but you're not going to get that. Read the comments. You're not going to get that. You're going to hear, Ego, you're biased. Ego, you're gay. Okay, I'm gay and I'm biased. Moving on. Tell me how I'm wrong. You know what I mean? So what I've heard is Andre Ward needs to fight Sergey Kovalev. Why doesn't Ward move up to fight Kovalev? That's the only argument that I'm really hearing. First of all, we're talking about Carl Froch, Andre Ward, and Triple G. Kovalev has nothing to do with this, keep in mind. So again, that's where you notice the defer. People defer. They play, oh shit, the heat's on. And then they pass the rock. So Kovalev has nothing to do with them three guys. That's one thing. And here's the quintessential difference, and here's where I'll provide the clarification. Triple G, since he stepped foot on American soil and started fighting, him and his team have maintained the message. We have the best fighter in the world. We are willing to fight anybody and campaign from 154 to 168 or 175. Ego didn't say that. They said that, right? But when you strip it down to the essentials, get to the meat of the issue, the nitty-gritty, and scratch below the paint, you'll realize that's not the case. Triple G and team said, we'll go down to 54, only for Floyd Mayweather. But they've also been on record saying, we're not going down to 54 for Canelo Alvarez or Miguel Cotto. Now, I understand from a business perspective, if you don't want to drop to 54 to fight Carlos Molina or K9 Bundridge, because, I mean, it doesn't make as much sense. Even though Bundridge is a champion, it doesn't make as much business sense. He's 40 plus. He's not a big name. But Mayweather's a big name. Canelo Alvarez is a big name that doubled Triple G's numbers on HBO versus Kirkland. And Miguel Cotto is a big name. So why are you only willing to fight the smallest of the three at 154, even though there's other good fights at 54 for Triple G? Canelo Alvarez at 54. I would pay top dollar for that. Miguel Cotto, Triple G at 154. Demetrius Andrade, Edeslani Lord. These are all good fights at 54, but you're willing to drop down for one person and one person only. That's not what you said. You said from this range to this range, anybody can get it, basically, right? And that's not the case. So that's why Team Golovkin is more so in the hot seat, because when you strip down and break it down to the molecule, you see what they said initially is not necessarily the case, right? Let me continue. 168, they said, oh yeah, we can move up. And then when it comes down to it, they'll move up for Carl Froch or Chavez Jr., but Ward, he doesn't make business sense. We're not going to fight him. So are you about proving your fighter's legacy in the best, or only making business sense? Andre Ward is not a bad fight, and it will tell me a lot about Triple G. If he defeats Andre Ward, that proves a lot to me, because you just beat a guy who beat the Super Six, an illustrious amateur background, Olympic gold medalist, right? There's no one that knows boxing that's willing to say Chavez Jr. has done more as an amateur, which he didn't really have an amateur career, or as a pro than Andre Ward. So you were willing to fight Chavez Jr., but you're not willing to fight Andre Ward. That is why you're in the hot seat. Let me continue. Team Ward has stated that they are content at 168. If Triple G did that, I had no problem with that. Ward and Virgil Hunter, his trainer, have said in interviews, link in the description, they're comfortable at 168. They can still make 168. The move to light heavyweight may come in the future, but it'll come when they decide as a team that's what's needed and that's what we want to do. But there's no pressure to move up or anything, because people asked them about Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson and stuff like that. Link in the description. So that's different. If Triple G and team said, we're content at 160 unifying, and that's it, then I'd be like, okay, handle your business. and people are ducking you. But you say you're being ducked. You say nobody wants to fight you at 160. You're already killing everybody who's not at the level at 160. And you're willing to move up, but not to fight the best. You're willing to move up to only fight Carl Froch or Chavez Jr. The styles that suit Triple G's style a bit better. You know what I'm saying? So let's break it down. What is it? What are you willing to do? Again, if Andre Ward says anybody at 168 or 175 can get it, then the Kovalev argument makes sense. But since he clearly said that we're content at our weight division and we'll move up when we think we need to move up or we're ready, that changes everything. If Triple G and his team said that, then no one would put Triple G in the hot seat. And Golovkin, they would just be like, okay, he wants to stick around at 160. But they opened their mouth and created that range. That's the standard that they created, not me. So if I got on this video in several videos and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to get the new 2016 Camaro. I'm about to get the new 2016 Camaro. And then the springtime comes, I don't have the Camaro. Summertime comes, I don't have the Camaro. Fall, I don't have the Camaro. Winter, I don't have the Camaro. You guys are going to be like, you lied to me. You said you would have this. So again, this is a standard that they created, or in the Camaro analogy, I created. If I tell people I'm going to get something or I'm capable of getting something and then they never see it, then obviously that's going to be a fault of myself because I put that out there in the atmosphere. Just like Team Golovkin, they're the ones that said they could fight from this range to this range. But then when you boil it down, you're only willing to fight Mayweather at 54. Nobody else, no Canelo. That's a great fight. You know what I mean? Stylistically, it's a better fight. Mayweather is the boring fighter, I thought. You know what I'm saying? Why not fight Canelo down there? That's you know what I mean? I would pay top dollar, like I said, for that. And then 168, but we want to pick and choose. Now, when it comes to like a Mayweather, he's proven his worth 19 to 20 years. He's done things that people said he couldn't do. Beat De La Hoya, beat Canelo, beat Pacquiao, stuff like that. We've seen his body of work for the last 19, 20 years. And people hold him to a standard saying, oh, you know what? Even though you've been in the sport 19, 20 years and you beat Diego Corrales and all these bigger guys and people that we didn't think you could beat, you got to fight Pacquiao. You still got, even though he had done a lot to that point, he still had to fight Pacquiao. That's what people wanted, and they wanted him to not cherry pick, quote unquote, and prove he was the best. But when it comes to Golovkin, we're okay him picking and choosing a guy like Willie Monroe with 6 knockouts and a guy like Adama who nobody knows and saying, I don't want to fight Laura. I will move up to 68 for Froch. I will fight Chavez Jr., who Froch lost to Andre Ward. Chavez Jr. has not done anything remotely in the same realm career-wise as an Andre Ward, and we're okay with that. So what is it? Is it about, nowadays you got fans who want to act like promoters. You're not a promoter, you're a fan. I don't get money off of the proceeds of a fight and pay-per-view. I'm not Mayweather like, oh yeah, I get this money on the back end. I'm not getting no back end money. I get money based on my hustle and talking about boxing, but not the proceeds or how successful an event is. And if I don't get no money and I'm pretty much vested, I'm media, I'm considered invested in boxing, then I know a lot of the fans don't get no money in the world of boxing. Yet, again, they play like promoters. Word don't make no sense. I don't give a shit if it makes sense. Stylistically, that will prove what I need to see from Triple G so I can really rate him on some pound for pound shit and look at what he's really done. Willie Monroe doesn't prove that to me. Again, this is a guy with losses. When's the last time Triple G beat an undefeated fighter? Tell me. I remember the last time Mayweather did. I believe it was Canelo. I remember the last time Andre Ward did. I believe it was Edwin Rodriguez, his last fight. Edwin Rodriguez, a big puncher and an undefeated fighter at the time. When's the last time Canelo beat an undefeated fighter? I believe it was when he fought Austin Trout, if I'm not mistaken, right? When's the last time Triple G beat someone who's undefeated? Willie Monroe had losses. Gabe Rosado had losses. I think he got stopped by Angulo, right? When has Triple G, the feared puncher, beat an undefeated fighter? You guys tell me that. You do the research and tell me that. And then when you find that person who is undefeated, tell me that they were doing as good as Canelo was doing when Mayweather beat him, or Edwin Rodriguez, who had just beat Denis Lechev. I forgot his name. He just stopped him in a Monte Carlo tournament, right? I know my boxing. That's what I'm saying. People can't fuck with me when it comes to this. So I like Triple G. I like Team Golovkin. I like Abel Sanchez. No beef with them. But when you talk to me about boxing, let's talk boxing. And the whole fact of the matter is, people want to call Floyd Mayweather or Pacquiao proven guys cherry pickers, but then they're okay with Triple G fighting only who he wants to fight, styles that benefit him in a new division. Again, if they said we want to focus only on 160, that's cool. But when you step out to 168, you're willing to fight a guy who's considering retirement off of an injury, who doesn't even know if he wants to continue fighting, but you're not willing to fight Andre Ward. And then again, the fans turn into promoters. Oh, Ward's boring. It's a bore fest. Oh, it ain't gonna make no money. Now, from a business aspect, Froch does make more sense. You know what I mean? And even stylistically, it could be more of a in-your-face action type fight. But again, what are we looking at? Are we looking at to see who's the best, or are we looking at who makes the most sense? You know what I'm saying? Boxing was never about this. Boxing was about competition. And now, as it evolves, it's getting less and less about the competition for some fighters. Mayweather still fought a guy who was ranked highly #2 in Manny Pacquiao. He still, 20 years later, has to fight these types of fights. The Canelos who are much bigger than him and undefeated. He still has to fight that. But then when we see Triple G, we're okay with him bringing guys up from 54, like Gabe Rosado, like Ishida with no punching power, right? So that's the double standard that you get in boxing. Again, if Triple G's team said that they didn't want to move up, then that's cool. But that's not the message that they're maintaining. Unlike Andre Ward. Andre Ward never said he wanted to move up to light heavyweight or anybody at light heavy can get. They said when we're ready to make that move, then that's when we'll jump the gun and do something like that, right? So it's all about the message, what you put out in interviews, what you put out to the public. That's what they're going to hold you to. If I say I'm the most reliable boxing channel, or I have constant updates, and I don't have constant updates, what are you guys going to say about me? You a fucking lie. You're a liar, Ego. You don't have what, you know what I'm saying? This is any type of business. Any type of business. They have things in business, they're called value propositions. If, let's say, Wendy's Hamburgers says, we only use the freshest meats and it's the freshest produce, our freshness is guaranteed. We make your order as you order it, so everything's hot. We don't use frozen vegetables, yada, yada, yada. You go to Wendy's, go through the drive-thru, and the burger's cold as shit, and it tastes stale. Are you going to be like, Wendy's kept their word. They did what they said they were going to do. You'd be like, fucking throw the burger through the drive-thru window. You know what I'm saying? Take this shit back. I want a refund. That's what you're going to do. Because the message that they put out there, they are not fulfilling. And that's with Team Golovkin. They said that we could fight from this range to this range, but it's not that. You could have said, I'll fight at 160, and if it makes business sense, we'll fight at 54, or we'll fight at 168. But that's not what they said. They said, basically, anybody can't get it. We'll mow through anybody, 154, 175, the end. You know what I'm saying? So it's really about your team and what you put out there. Carl Froch, Triple G, it's not a bad fight. I would watch it, but it proves less to me than him to fight Andre Ward. I don't care about a boring style, because at the end of the day, this is a competition, not just a business. It's about the competition. Andre Ward beat Carl Froch with the wounded hand, right? He's done more than Chavez Jr. So why are you willing to only fight the stylistic fights that suit Triple G's style? To me, that's not right, especially since we're supposed to be keeping it consistent. If Mayweather and all these other fights, and everyone complains about Al Heyman did it. Al Heyman's making these mismatches and catchweights. Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson was still, even at a catchweight, is still a fight that proves something in the division. You know what I'm saying? But what does it really prove if Triple G were to beat Chavez Jr., a guy with losses, who lost to Sergio Martinez easy? And Sergio Martinez didn't even have as aggressive a style as Triple G. You know what I'm saying? And in this video, I feel as Egoveli, I made my argument and I covered my bases very well, supported where I was coming from. I'm going to leave with this aspect also, because I have the gift of foresight. I can foreshadow. And the other thing people are going to say is, oh shit, my fighter's being attacked. Triple G's being attacked. What do I do? What do I do? This is what they're going to do. They're going to say, but Andre Ward, he's fighting Paul Smith at a catchweight. Now, you always have to, when you're arguing with something, put things into perspective. The perspective is Ward dealing with his legal trouble is on a long layoff. So the same pardon that I would give to Triple G, Ward, anybody in that situation, it's not the fight that I want to see with Paul Smith, but I understand because I'm a realist. Amir Khan got knocked out by Danny Garcia, and he came back and pulled a guy up in weight in Carlos Molina with no punching power because he had to get his bearings right. He had to get right back on track. Now, to me, again, I didn't want to see Carlos Molina versus Amir Khan. I already knew the outcome, but I understood it. He was with the new trainer, and he had to get right. He had to get back on track. That's what this is. If Andre Ward was fighting as actively as Triple G, fighting 3 to 5 times a year, then he decided to fight Paul Smith, I'd be like, this is some bullshit. But again, you can't compare him fighting off of over a year layoff. That's what some of you guys made fun of Ward for, having the long layoff. So we all know he's been on a long layoff. And again, it doesn't make sense for him to immediately go up and fight. And a lot of guys are tied up, like Darrell DeGale. They're tied up with each other. I think that's happening this weekend, as a matter of fact. Kovalev's fighting Mohammedi, or whatever the dude's name is. So it doesn't really make sense for him to go up and wait like he didn't say he was going to do. Or the guys, the premier guys that I want to see a guy like Ward fight at 168 are tied up. You know what I mean? Anthony Darrell just lost. They're trying to do a purse bid for George Groves versus Badou Jack. So again, you have to be realistic as a boxing fan. And for Ward to be on a year-long layoff and then immediately come back and face the best 168-pounder not named Ward, that's a bit unrealistic in my opinion. That doesn't really make sense for somebody's career. And he's already done that. He had a long layoff versus Edwin Rodriguez, like I mentioned in this video, and he came back and fought an undefeated fighter. So again, put it in perspective, and you have to be realistic. Chavez Jr., after a long layoff, I didn't expect him to come back and fight Fonfara. In fact, his dad urged him not to fight Fonfara, and he did it anyway. Now his career has plummeted because he quit on the stool and he got knocked out. So I wouldn't suggest anybody do that. I'm looking forward to Mikey Garcia, who's also been on a long layoff, right? I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the ring. So am I expecting his first fight back to be Terrence Crawford at 140? Absolutely not. That's not realistic. Would I want it to be Terrence Crawford? Yes, because I think they're both good fighters. But that's not realistic to expect that after a long layoff. This, like I said, this is a business to a degree. So, I mean, you have to do what's reasonable for your fighter. So I think boxing, we need to really get it back where the fans are just fans and they're consistent. Again, you're going to have people that hate me for this video or get mad. But what I'm asking you as a boxing fan, you could do all that, but prove me wrong. Prove what I said wrong. Link in the description. Checkmate. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.